A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. Glad you're with me on the program today. Hope you had a great weekend. I actually caught my first fish in probably a decade. I've been fishing more often. I just haven't caught anything, but that changed this weekend. I'm feeling pretty good about myself, and very appropriate because we're going to be talking today with Pete Rogers. He is the host of the Christian Outdoors podcast, which is hugely popular. I believe about 500,000 subscribers, so in the top 1% of a podcast worldwide. And Pete, a Second Amendment supporter, a hunter, an angler, avid outdoorsman, a trapper in his day job, and fascinating individual. It was a great conversation. Take a look and a listen. Pete, thank you so much for coming on the program, sir. It's good to meet you.
Thank you so much, Cam. Good to be here.
So I have to ask, first of all, how did you decide, because you've obviously been an outdoorsman, it sounds like pretty much your entire life, right?
I have, yes. And I started writing for outdoor publications back in the late 90s, hunting and fishing, trapping stories for, just about every magazine that used to be in existence.
Right.
And, I've 1,400 plus published articles, 6 books. So, being in that business for so long, Cam, I noticed after meeting so many people and talking to them for the record and off the record, that most of them were people of faith, but they didn't have a platform in order to share it. And me being the same way is that the publications I wrote for wouldn't allow any references for our faith journey and God, very, very generic things. Let me put on that, very generic. So I was actually attending a POMA conference, which is Professional Outdoor Media Association conference in 2017. And happened to just walk into a seminar talking about podcasts. I'd heard about them, but didn't know anything about them. And I went in there because I had to kill some time anyway, right? And I was like, you know what? I like this idea. So I just started, I like to use the word incubating. I let it incubate in me and thinking about it and trying to figure out what could I do on a podcast, what kind of topics, what kind of so forth. And I spent almost 2 years researching podcasts, listening to podcasts about how to podcast, and taking all kinds of notes, looking at webinars, praying about it. And said, I love the outdoors, everything about it. Hunting, fishing, trapping, camping, hiking, anything that's outdoor related. I love it. I have a passion for it, but I also have a passion for Jesus. So how can I merge those two together? And that's where Christian Outdoors was born.
That's amazing. I mean, from somebody, and you've had that writing experience, but you didn't have any sort of broadcasting experience before you. Wow.
No.
Wow.
Big learning curve, buddy. Big learning curve.
Well, apparently you're a good learner because, I got to say, Christian Outdoors has caught on in a very big way. I mean, there's a huge audience for what you're doing, Pete.
There is. And it's a very humbling thing, Cam, as a podcaster yourself, that it's very humbling that people will take the time out of their day, their life, to listen to what you have to say, and your guests have to say. And it's, I think like all things, though, we started very slow. It was very niche. We were the first one, by the way, that combined faith and outdoors. Now there's, they say imitation's a form of flattery or something.
Right.
And now there's a lot of us out there, and I don't see it as competition. I see it as good. That's awesome that more people are sharing their passion for the outdoors and sharing their passion for Christ at the same time. So I may not reach people that somebody else reaches. They may have a different kind of presentation than what I do, and that appeals to a different audience than what mine does, and that's awesome. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. There's plenty there's plenty out there for everybody to have a little piece.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we see this too in the broader Second Amendment podcasting community. That
Absolutely.
we're, I suppose, I mean, inevitably you're a competitor, but there's so much collaboration that
Yeah.
goes on, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a passion, right? It's not just about a
Right.
paycheck, and so we're working for a cause, and
Yes.
we're all working towards that same cause and towards that same goal. Then it doesn't matter if if you've got somebody else who's working in the same arena. In fact, it's great that you've got somebody else that's working in the same arena. Do you collaborate with any of these other
Oh,
podcasts that have come along since?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As soon as I see someone else getting into this niche that I'm in, I reach out to them immediately and say, "Hey, I'd love to have you on my show. And maybe I can be on your show. We can help each other, cross promote one another." I do that as soon as I find a new one, and and I find it to be beneficial. For one, is you're always looking for guests,
Right.
right? And so they kind of check all the boxes, saying that, well, they're a person of faith, they're an outdoor person, so they fit the model, and especially if they're new, then it gives me a chance to mentor a little bit to speed up their learning curve that I didn't have, and to help them some of some things that I've learned and mistakes that I've made, and maybe help them not to repeat those same mistakes. So yeah, it
So,
works.
speaking of news, let's talk about how that translates to your audience too. Have you done any sort of research, even anecdotal research? How many people, what percentage of your audience do you think is coming to you primarily for the outdoors content versus coming to you primarily for you talking about your faith and your guests talking about their faith?
That's a really good question. It seems right, and there's not really a good way to find hard data. So a lot of this is um, whatever the word is, it's leaving me now. But can't think of the word now. But
We'll call
anyway,
it an educated guess. How about that?
yes, is I feel like I have a really solid foothold in the outdoor space because I had been in the outdoor space for so long and know
Mhm.
so many people and so many. I go to all the trade shows in the outdoor world, SHOT Show and ATA and Harrisburg and all these other shows, and so uh, there's not a lot of people in the space that I don't know or don't know me, and I don't say that boastfully. It's just from time being in the space, right? And but I'm not sure what foothold we have in the Christian space, which is what led us to, after praying about it and talking with the people at Life Audio, of joining the Life Audio platform, which is a Christian platform, of saying, let's add ourselves into the Christian space aggressively, and see if we can get a bigger foothold there than what we currently have. Again, it's really hard to measure that, and I'm sure you know that as a podcaster as
Yeah.
well. What's your demographic? What's your uh, first time listener versus repeat listener? And this guy listened 6 months ago, and now he's back, and all that kind of stuff. It's really hard to measure that stuff.
Yep.
So I feel like in the outdoor space, we have a very strong foothold. And um, and so as far as going to the Christian space, yes, we had believers that were outdoorsmen that were listening, but how many believers that were not outdoorsmen, but maybe their brother was, or their husband, or them, or their uncle, or they want to be but don't know how to get involved in it.
Yeah.
As an example, in the excuse me, particularly in the hunting world, there's been a dramatic decrease in active hunters in the last 15 years. And so the hunting community has this, and you probably see this in the 2A community as well. This, what they call the 3 R's, to recruit, reactivate, and retain current hunters or potential new hunters.
Hmm.
And so I see that where in the Christian community, I hunted growing up with my grandfather, but he's gone, and I really haven't I'd like to get back into it, or fished, or I used to hike a lot, but now I just walk in the woods. There's a difference. Um, and I'm trying to reinvigorate that opportunity and passion for them has been a big goal of ours.
Yeah, and we do see that, I think, in the Second Amendment space. And it's interesting because the Second Amendment obviously is not about hunting. It protects the right to hunt and fish, but it's not about hunting. That's not why we have the Second Amendment. Um,
Right.
but sometimes I feel like I sometimes feel like there's a portion of the Second Amendment community that rolls its eyes whenever we talk about hunting,
Yeah.
because not every hunter is, a FUD who supports gun control, as long as we're not talking about their rifle or their shotgun.
Right.
That's obviously, I think there are those traditionalists who I would disagree with when it comes to our right to keep and bear arms, but I think hunters and sportsmen are natural allies of the Second Amendment community. At least they could be, and I think sometimes we just talk past one another. If your focus is primarily, on the right to keep and bear arms, not necessarily hunting, or if your focus is on hunting and not necessarily the broader right to keep and bear arms, then sometimes we don't have those conversations, or even view each other as adversarial in some ways, which is odd to me, because I think we are in the same boat, right? If we aren't recruiting, especially not just new gun owners, but new Second Amendment advocates, if we aren't
Right.
reactivating those folks who may have been politically involved at some point in the past, but maybe think, well, I live in a blue state now, or they think everything's great under Trump, I don't need to worry about it, right? And if we don't retain those folks, then that's how rights get lost. And that's how, not just our right to keep and bear arms or our right to carry, but that does translate into big impacts, I think, for hunters and shooters and outdoorsmen. I mean, we talk about loss of land, we talk about loss of range access. I mean, all of these issues that come into play when those numbers decline, right?
They very much so, because most gun hunters, particularly, and Christian Outdoors is the title sponsor is Taurus, right? And our secondary sponsor is CVA Rifles and Muzzleloaders. So we are very strong Second Amendment people, but we promote shooting for fun as well.
Mhm.
Whether it's competitive shooting or whether it's just plinking. And I'm a certified NRA firearms instructor in all disciplines, and so it is a very important thing. Is that, and I talk about it a lot when I'm interviewing people that are professional shooters. Is you got to protect the right to be able to own this and to use it responsibly, right? And to use it in a way, and to just to make sure that our children and our children's children have the right to continue to do what is so important to us. And I see a direct overlap in the hunting community between conservation and Second Amendment protection. There's a big push to make sure that we preserve the wildlife for future generations, excuse me, and access to land in order to pursue them. Well, you can't do that with a slingshot or a rock, right? You got to have a way in order to pursue it, and it's a direct correlation between the right to own guns, the right to carry, the right to be able to shoot them on your property or at a gun range or wherever you want to, and without restriction. Um, whether it's well, this state has a 5-round magazine restriction now. Instead, you don't need 30 rounds to go hunting. Well, you don't, but that's not what it's about.
Right.
I mean, and you know that better than I do. That's not what it's about. It's about protecting the right. Because if you go from 30 to 10, then it's 10 to 5, and now everybody's shooting single shots, and that doesn't protect you when the thugs are after you. Is I got to make this one count.
That's
You
right.
know, you know. So
Yeah.
it's a and I'm the guy. It's interesting, Cam, because I interview a lot of people, right? And there's a lot of in the hunting community. So I want to see if this is true in your community as well. There's a lot of infighting among uh, bow hunters look down on gun hunters, and gun hunters who use modern rifles look down on those who use traditional bolt actions or single shots or side by sides or whatever. And shotgun hunters did, and it's like, guys, we got to work together. We've got to work together in order to keep this alive. The right to hunt and fish and bear arms, to me, is it's all the same. It's all connected together.
Absolutely. It's ecumenical,
Yeah.
and not necessarily in a faith-based sense, but it is, it is universal and it is all tied together. And yeah, I mean, we certainly see that in the Second Amendment community. Some of the fights are more good-natured, but then there are, something we've seen a lot of. I think recently, in particular, and I think that social media drives a lot of this. You'll see Harmy Dillon, the Assistant Attorney General, for example. She posted a video. This was, I think, earlier this year. She went to the range, and man, there were a lot of people who were just very quick to criticize her stance, criticize her grip. You're not shooting good enough. It was not a. There were a lot of, there were some supportive folks, but everybody's a critic online, right? And
Oh yeah.
notice that there are some people who aren't interested in being helpful.
Right.
They're there to criticize. They're there to, and it's really, I think we run the risk of turning people off, right? I
Absolutely.
want to be a welcoming community. I want people to, when they start to embrace their Second Amendment rights, and they go to the range for the first time, or they, climb up into a tree stand for the first time, that
Mhm.
they don't feel like they're, intruding on somebody's clique, that they're not wanted. I
Right.
want them to feel like they're welcome and invited. And I
Absolutely.
think that's absolutely true for hunting too. My uncles grew, let's put it this way. I'm one generation removed from the farm. My
Yeah.
mom grew up in Oklahoma during the Dust Bowl. Was 18 before she had a house with electricity and running water. My uncles on my mom's side, all hunters and farmers and ranchers in Colorado and Oregon. But I grew up in the suburbs of Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
So I did not grow up, hunting. Didn't have, I wasn't opposed to it. I just never had the opportunity to do it.
Right.
And so, you know, over the years, particularly as I got connected into the Second Amendment world, I've been doing camming companies since 2004. I've had those opportunities, but it's not something that like I grew up in. It's not something that automatically feels natural to me, right? There was a
Right.
learning curve.
Right.
And thankfully, I've been around people who did grow up in this environment, and they were hunting with their dad when they were, old enough to carry a gun. And I've
Yeah.
been able to learn from them. And that's been hugely helpful, because if that attitude had been, well, no, I'm not going to take you out. No, I'm not going to show you how to do this. I don't want to waste my time,
Right.
helping you. I want to go out and hunt myself.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that I would have had the experiences that I've been able to have.
Right. Right. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is what we call the evolution of the hunter. And everybody defines that a little differently. Right. From whether you start at 14 or whether you start at 50. I interviewed a guy who never started hunting before till he was 50 years old. And he is just in and he just completely embraced it. Like you said, never had an opportunity, got an opportunity. Now he's hunting all over the world every chance he can. He's got the means to do that. But it's a mentorship. Part of the evolution of the hunter is, basically you start out, you want to get success. Right. You want to be able to take in it, whether it's a rabbit, you want a rabbit hunt or a deer or a turkey or whatever it is, squirrels. Sidebar. I highly always encourage people to start on small game and ratchet up to the big game.
Mm-hmm.
Success is important. You want to know that you're able to do it. All right. And then comes, let's make it a little bit harder for ourselves. All right. Now we're going to be a little bit more selective what we shoot, what we do. And as you get older and as you become more successful in the hunting world, you start saying, well, I really enjoy watching other people learn it for the first time, sharing your passion. So we strongly encourage mentorship and taking people. There's here in a program called Take One, Make One, and that is for actually adults, not kids. Take adults who've never had an opportunity, never had access to land or to places to hunt. Let's take them and show them and teach them, because for a hunter, it's not about taking the animal. It's the whole process.
Yeah.
It's learning it's learning your species that you're hunting. How do they move through the how do they when do they sleep? When do they eat? How do they travel? How do they move? How do from For me, that is the most exciting part of it. I'll use deer as an example, just the most popular animal, is finding where are they living? How are they traveling from where they sleep to where they eat? What are they eating this time of year? Because the food changes constantly.
Yep.
And being able to put all those pieces of the puzzle together and then put yourself in the right spot to have the opportunity. I've already won the game. I've just decided not to pull the trigger, right? I've already beat them at their game. They're standing right there at 35 yards, broadside, have no clue that I'm there. And I can tell you, 85 to 90% of the time I hunt, I don't take game when I have chances to, because it's not about that. Once I get meat in the freezer, because I eat everything I kill.
Yeah.
Once I get enough meat in the freezer, I don't stop hunting, because it's not about the killing. It is, or as they say now, the harvest. We don't harvest them. We actually take their life. And that's important.
Yep.
That's important that we understand that's what you're doing, so that you take the responsibility of, I want to make it ethical. I'm going to make it quick. I'm going to make it clean. I don't want the animal to suffer. And that's where time at the range, time learning your weapon, time making sure that you have the right caliber, the right bullet, the right optics on it in order to make sure that you're doing everything you can to make it as successful as possible.
Yeah. No, you're so right about that. I mean, I moved here to rural Central Virginia with my family end of 2012. At that point, I was a product of the suburbs and in an urban environment. And my wife and I, we had big plans for homesteading, and we got goats and we got our chickens and we got our pigs. And the first time that I had to, the first time we killed our pigs to turn them into food, that was a real wake up call for me. Mm-hmm. And for a while, I kind of had this theory that it's easy to raise animals and eat animals as long as you don't kill that animal. It's easy to raise that animal and kill an animal as long as you don't eat that animal. But to do all three of those things, to raise that animal, to kill that animal, and then to eat that animal, I think that breaks a lot of people's brains, because we just don't do that, right?
Right.
And, the first time that you mess up and the first time you see that animal suffering, that should be a real wake-up call. And we had an experience where one of the sows that we put down did not want to go down. And it was not a pleasant death, and it was not a quick death. And, that I really had some soul searching after that. Did I want to keep doing that? Was I good enough to keep doing that? Because again, you're a steward, whether you're talking about livestock, whether you're talking about, wild game, you are a steward of that animal. And, and if you can't do it correctly, again, I just wondered, is this something I'm capable of? And as it turns out, yes, I am. I was able to learn from that experience. And, now it's still not one of my favorite chores to process these animals, but I do it. And I do it with respect for the life that they lived, and the life that they're helping sustain me. Right. So, I think, what you talk about, that the ethics and the morality of hunting, I think translates in a very obvious way, if we let it be obvious, to living a life of faith, right?
Yeah, it does. It's a total connection there, because the Bible's very clear that God gave us the animals to eat, right? It says that in Genesis, when they were removed from the garden, that we're to till the land and garden the land, and to work the land in order to produce food. But he also said that he has given us all these animals for our food. And so, whether they're domestic or whether they're wild, as someone who cares about what I consume, right, when it comes to meat, there's nothing more organic than wild game. There's nothing that you can make sure 100% does not have any additives to it other than wild game. Right. Venison is one of the healthiest meals there are, because there's no marbling in it. It's very lean. There's very little fat. If it is, it's on top of the meat, not in the meat. So you can cut that off. And it is very, very healthy. and you can, and I've heard people say, I don't like venison because it's gamey. Well, you didn't prepare it right. Okay. You can ruin a T-bone pretty quick,
Yeah.
So if you didn't like it, you didn't cook it correctly, or it wasn't handled right from the beginning. I'm the guy who I take a lot of pride in when I take a deer as an example, or a turkey or a duck or anything. I do it food to table. I don't send it to a processor. I do it all myself. And I think for Pete, I've had this discussion with a lot of hunters. They don't agree with me, and that's okay. I feel like I owe it to the animal. I took its life, so I'm going to process it. I'm going to skin it. I'm going to remove the entrails. I'm going to debone it. I'm going to trim it and cut it up properly, grind it up into burger, vacuum seal it, put it in my freezer. And I do that with all my animals, and I know 100% what that deer ate and how it's been handled the whole way through. Whereas if you go to your local butcher shop and you buy a New York strip or even some ground chuck, you don't know what that animal ate. You don't have a clue how it was handled. You just are trusting the system to make sure that it was done well. And I retired from the USDA. So I know a lot of what goes on in a lot of places and stuff, even though I wasn't a meat inspector, but I still have the knowledge of it, that I want to know what I'm eating. And so I grow my own vegetables for them. I don't grow enough to live me the whole year, but I like to grow a garden, and I eat a lot of wild game. We just moved to a new property that I'm developing. Goats and chickens are coming quick. And on that, somebody told me years ago when I was doing the same thing that you did, like you got dispatch your own pig so that you can process it. He said, if you ever give it a name, it's harder to do. Never name your animals. I thought that's a really good point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's right.
I don't want to shoot Wilbur. I don't want to shoot Wilbur.
I agree with that, but it's also, see, that to me, that's the struggle, right? Because if you are interacting with these animals every day and you're feeding these animals every day, then it's hard not to name them. It's hard not to get attached to them, right? So,
really
I mean, we put down pork chop and bacon, and for a while we were naming our girls after first ladies. So we had Martha Washington, and and it's it does get, it probably is more difficult, but at the same time, my attitude with raising these animals is I want to give them as good a life as they can have for as long as they can have.
Right.
And then I want to give them a quick and painless death.
Right.
I always said happy hogs make tasty bacon. So,
very, very good.
and I think that even if it makes it a little bit harder, I think for me anyway, having it helps forge that connection, and it helps me respect these animals under my care a little bit. So,
I didn't say I did. I didn't say I did what he suggested. I just said that's what he said. I name all my animals too. But I got Ginger and Marianne and Wilma and Betty and Fred and Barney. So I give them names like that. Lucy and Ethel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Pete, listen, man, I really have enjoyed this conversation. I know we could talk for hours here, and I hope we do get a chance to continue it in the future. But if folks want to listen to Christian Outdoors, how often are you doing the podcast? Where can they find you?
Okay, we do 2 shows a week. One is every Monday where we do an interview with someone every Monday morning. It releases. It's on Life Audio, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and also on YouTube. So every Monday is where we do an interview, and on Wednesdays we release about a 10-minute devotion that comes out on the same platform. So that way we kind of do both. But on Mondays are interviews with stakeholders into space. And we cover a wide array of topics, whether it's, like I said, hunting is a big one. Fishing is another one. Trapping, competitive shooting, camping. We've had people that hike the Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail. We do anything related to outdoors. So that's our motto, is that we discuss all things outdoors and how to enjoy God every day.
That is fantastic. Well, Pete, again, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Absolutely.
And look forward to doing this again in the future.
Thank you, Cam, for having me.
My thanks to Pete for joining us on the program. I'm looking forward to actually being his guest here in about a month or so, and we'll give you more details about that as we get closer. All right, let's turn our attention to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day, and our recidivist report. We'll start there with a disturbing case out of Atlanta, where the mayor says there are serious questions about why an individual with 30 prior arrests was out and about and ended up fatally stabbing somebody on the Beltline on Sunday. Suspect has been identified as Jonathan Hamby, I believe 53 years of age, maybe 54 years old. Yeah, 54. Violent stabbing happened near a Kroger on the east side trail of the Beltline. 29-year-old victim has not yet been publicly identified. But according to Atlanta Police Chief Darren Shirebaum, the 54-year-old Hamby has been arrested at least 30 times, including in 2022, when he was charged with aggravated assault and possession of a knife during the commission of a felony. Shirebaum said Mr. Hamby has an extensive criminal history. He has been arrested multiple times via law enforcement, and we're currently showing 30 previous arrest cycles. We're showing that he's a convicted felon, and we're showing that he was on active probation for an aggravated assault that occurred in Brookhaven. Mayor Elijah Dickens on Monday, Andre Dickens, said that we now know that the individual arrested in connection with this attack is a convicted felon with 30 prior arrest cycles and a history of mental illness, raising serious questions about how someone with that record was once again in a position to endanger the public. Well, I mean, I got a guess, and the guess is that the criminal justice system doesn't really take repeat offenders seriously until they commit a crime that is serious enough to appear on the nightly news or to get on the front page of the local newspaper, if you still have a local newspaper. Most of these individuals who have a lengthy criminal history, I won't say that they're low-level offenses, because in many cases they're not. We're talking about serious, violent crimes. But they never really caught the attention of the public. Prosecutors offered them a plea deal. Out of the 30 arrest cycles that Mr. Hamby has been involved in, how many of these cases went to trial, you think? As opposed to being resolved with either a plea deal or prosecutors dropping charges altogether. I'm guessing somewhere between 95 to 100% of these cases were resolved without Mr. Hamby going to trial. And that means that prosecutors offered Hamby a deal. Charges were reduced, charges were dismissed. A 10-year sentence turned into a 5-year sentence. A 5-year sentence turned into nothing more than probation. I'm guessing that's what happened here. And so the mayor and the police chief, are right to complain about this, but they only complain about this, again, when a case like this makes the 10 o'clock news or makes the front page of the paper. This is this is part of how it's not just part, this is how the criminal justice system operates in this country. So when you complain about a specific incident, I don't think you're doing anything more than grandstanding, quite honestly. You want to make changes? Talk about this every damn day, like we do here at Bearing Arms. That's part of why we do this, to show that the criminal justice system is broken. And rather than going after lawful gun owners and trying to infringe on their right to keep and bear arms, let's focus on repeat violent offenders. Let's focus on actually restoring justice to the criminal justice system and fixing some of the problems that are endemic in our criminal justice system across the country. And again, that appears to be the case here with the most recent arrest of a Jonathan Hamby. On to today's armed citizen story. From Philadelphia, the Frankford area, or Frankford neighborhood, where a shooting happened on Sunday. The shooter claiming self-defense. Don't have a lot of information, but we do know that the shooter was not arrested at the scene, which is always, I should say always, often an indication that there is clear evidence pointing to self-defense. Generally, I think, police err on the side of, okay, we're going to arrest you and charge you if they think that those charges are going to stick. This was Saturday. I said this was Sunday. This was actually about 11:30 Saturday night. Police called out to the 4800 block of Jackson Street in Philadelphia, where they found a 62-year-old man who had been shot in the arm and the face, who passed away at the scene. According to police, a second man was found with a firearm, possessed a valid permit to carry. He told police that the victim pointed a gun at him, so in return, he shot the guy. If the facts are as the armed citizen alleges, the armed citizen won't be facing any charges. Somebody points a gun at you. If they're the initial aggressor, you have the right to protect yourself. And if somebody's pointing a gun at you, and you haven't done anything to them, you have a reasonable belief that your life is in danger, and you can act to protect yourself. So the fact that no charges have been filed, he was taken to police headquarters for questioning, but not arrested there at the scene. Again, at least to me, indicates that there is some evidence that would corroborate his story, at least upon the initial investigation. So we'll keep our eyes open for any more details and bring them to you as they become available, if they become available. A lot of times, when defensive gun use like this happens, no charges are filed, we don't get follow-up stories. The media sort of moves on, but we'll see what we can find out for you. All right, finally today, our good deed of the day in the right place at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. This is truly an amazing story from CBS News in New York. A Good Samaritan helps Bronx mother after seeing story on devastating fire. He's been a blessing, says this woman. So it was about 2 months ago. CBS New York ran a profile of a woman named Nina Chambers. This was back in late June. A neighboring building had caught fire, and Nina Chambers' apartment was impacted. She lost everything, essentially. Could not stay in her apartment, so she was staying in a hotel with her 3 kids. She was out of money at that point. She actually had an overdraft on her bank account as she was buying food for her children. So out on Long Island, a guy named Scott Evans was watching TV, saw this story, and as he told CBS New York, he realized this was one of the things that I could do something about. So he went to Chambers Bank, I guess it was identified in the news story, and said, "Can I put money in her account?" And they said, "No, you can't do that." So he emailed the reporter who connected him with Nina Chambers, and Scott Evans gave her $3,000 to help keep a roof over her and her children's head, to help feed her kids, to get them ready for school. Nina Chambers says he didn't ask for anything except, "How can I help you?" Nina Chambers has since secured a new apartment. She has graduated from school with a degree in human services, and hopefully she'll be able to land a full-time job in the very near future. But she says that thanks to Scott Evans, she realizes that the greatest gift you can give can't be measured in dollars. She says Scott is an angel. Said Scott's one of those people you don't know he's there until he shows you what he can do. When Scott Evans was informed about what Nina Chambers said about him, CBS News says that he grew emotional. He says, "I'm blessed that I can do it." He said, "We have no mortgages. We have no car payments." And, I assume that is the case for many people. It's not the case for me. But to be in that situation, to see somebody in need you've never met before, and to just make that decision that, you know what, I think I can help, so I'm going to help. He's not even met Nina Chambers in person yet. Says he wants to. And Chambers wants to as well, calling him a blessing. She says, "I just want to get on my feet so I can pay it forward." And I hope that one day Nina Chambers is able to do that. So in the right place, at the right time, willing able to do the right thing. Scott Evans, we thank you, sir, for your very, very good deed. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. I want to thank you, as always, for being a part of the program, and I am looking forward to seeing you back here again tomorrow. I keep waiting for the Third Circuit to give us the decision in the sensitive places case, right? The Coon Siegel case. I kind of figured it'd be out by now, quite honestly. But maybe today's the day. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. If not, we have plenty of other stuff to talk about. And we'll be bringing it all to you at BarionArms.com as well as on the Barion Arms Cam and Company podcast. So have a great rest of your Monday, as well as Mondays can be. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Until then, be well, be safe, and be free.